How to build a Blackgates Sweet Pea 5-inch gauge locomotive. This is part 51. Mounting the footplates using a different method to the one described in the book. It is a simple job, but take your time and get it right. I would like to take this opportunity to mention that even though it says blackgates.co.uk underneath the copyright notice at the bottom, the only connection I have with Blackgates Engineering is as a customer, and they are friends of mine. This series, How to Build a Blackgates Sweet Pea Locomotive, is not sponsored in any way by anyone. This is one of the original pieces of angle that was fitted to the engine to hold the original footplates, which were a bit of a mess. So scrapped those and went to buy some more angle, but Blackgates said they didn't have any, so I thought, well, I may as well just use square bar because it's going to be stronger and heavier, which is better for the track adhesion of the locomotive. Within limits, of course, because you don't want the engine to be too heavy, but a bit of extra weight is not a bad thing. If you look carefully at this clip, you can see that the original holes in this piece of angle were not exactly drilled in the right place. Luckily, even though the holes in the chassis are not perfect, they're better than the holes in the piece of angle. This original piece of angle did have a use, though. I used it to put a felt tip pen mark on one of the square pieces of steel. I placed the two pieces of steel bar side by side in the vise on the bandsaw and proceeded to cut them to length. This video is running at twice normal speed. Luckily, the bits that I cut off the full length bars will form the buffer beam supports for the footplates. Into the outer part of the workshop now to clean up the ends of the bar. And yes, I do know that this is not good engineering practice using a 1-inch belt sander. I should have fitted the parts in the milling machine and milled across the ends. This method is quicker and saves time, which is always a good thing. At least for me anyway. Before doing the job, I'm checking that the table of the belt sander is at 90 degrees to the vertical part, and it isn't really. The vertical part that supports the sanding belt is a bit bent. I straightened it and did a quick test using this piece of brass. Now the job is easy. All I have to do is hold each end of the steel bar up against the belt sander, checking frequently that it is square just by looking at it. One of the pieces of steel was slightly longer than the other. I put that right at the same time. Now it's time to go back into the inner part of the workshop, which is definitely warmer, and I'm using a felt tip pen instead of marking out blue, just in the general area where I need to mark the positions for the holes through the frame. From an engineering standpoint, I often do things in a very unorthodox way. These are not engineering clamps. They're just ordinary plastic spring clamps, but they'll do the job for what I'm wanting them to do at the moment. I'm going to mark out the hole positions on these pieces of bar using a twist drill fitted into this wonderful device, a Proxxon right-angled mini drill. I've selected a twist drill that fits through the existing holes in the frame, and when I was drilling through the frames onto the steel bar, I held the steel bar with my hands as well as the plastic clamps. Now it's over to the drilling machine, and I need to align the twist drill with the marks that are made in the steel bar. I applied sufficient pressure with the Proxxon mini drill to make the equivalent of a centre punch mark where I needed to drill the holes, and here I'm doing just that. The camera angle makes this clip look a bit wrong. It's really quite level in the machine vise, but the machine vise isn't tightened up so it can move around. It just means I have a bit of a margin of error. And the point of the drill bit will follow the pop mark without having to adjust the position of the cross vise. The drill bit that I'm using here is clearance size for 4BA, which is 9/32 of an inch, 1 imperial size up from 1/8. I intend to hold the pieces of steel to the chassis using 4BA bolts, long 4BA bolts, with a washer and a nut on the inside of the frames. I didn't get it 100%, and is that my fault? Yes, it is really. The first two bolts lined up perfectly. The second two were just a little bit tight. I just ran the drill bit through the hole and the frames in one go, and now everything lines up very well. No needle filing and no oversized drilling. Now it's time to mount the buffer beam support. I cleaned up the end of these pieces of steel, which were the bits that I cut off the longer length of bar, and this part of the job is almost exactly the same as what you've just seen, although there are only 2 bolts. In this clip I'm enlarging the holes in the buffer beam to 9/32 of an inch, so now we have a clearance size all the way through the buffer beam and the piece of bar. Because this is a clearance size, I can make some adjustment, and with the footplate in position I'm tapping it with a soft hammer just to make sure it's perfectly level with the top of the buffer beam. That's one side done. I'm not going to show the other side in quite as much detail, and it's also a bit more difficult because it has the bracket for the reversing lever in the way. This was very easily sorted. I simply marked the position where the piece of steel bar fouled the reversing stand and ground some of the metal away using the 1-inch belt sander. Yes, I know I should have put it in the milling machine, but this was quicker. At this point I did notice that the reversing stand was ever so slightly too high. I will have to drop this in due course. I will machine some slots in the mounting of the stand where it fits to the chassis. It will be okay for now though, and it's time for me to go. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists, and by doing that you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists you can actually watch the videos back to back.